Yeah, so one morning I wake up to go start a fire, and I open the door in the fireplace, and laying on the bed of the fireplace is one of the fire bricks that insulates the top of the wood stove, broken in half. Okay, so I'll just replace the brick. Um, it, this was actually the same day after a snowstorm, so I didn't really have any time to deal with it right then because I had to go out and shovel. So I take a shower, have some coffee, get dressed, and start to go out and shovel. So I'm out shoveling for about an hour, hour and a half, and I'm done shoveling. I come in, and I'm going to try and deal with this fire brick. So I get my daughter Helen to go with me, and we go up to the hardware store, just right up the street. And I go to the hardware store, and sure enough, they have fire bricks, but they're all out. Okay, so I asked the guy, where can I get a fire brick? And he mentions this concrete place up the road a bit that would probably have them. Okay, so Helen and I get in the car, and we go up to this concrete place, and they have fire bricks. The problem is that the fire bricks that they sold were too wide. I had actually brought the broken pieces with me to check the size. They're too wide, but the length is good. So these guys, kind of burly looking guys, you know, surrounded by concrete and pallets with stuff on the pallets, and, you know, just a regular place for stuff like that. And I asked the guys, well, the fire brick is good, but it's too wide. Do you have any tools to cut it? No, no tools. So I'm thinking to myself, here are these guys, you know, kind of tough guys, but no tools to cut it. They're just kind of there to sell whatever. Okay, so I get the fire brick, we get in the car, and I actually was thinking of another place I wanted to go to, but I wanted to go home to make sure to actually see if this fire brick was too wide. So I go home, sure enough, it's too wide. So I put Helen back in the car, and we go to another place. I know of this stove shop in town. So we get there, and they don't even sell fire bricks. And I get to talking to the guy that works there, and turns out that the stove that I own, the company that made it, actually had gone out of business a long time ago. Okay? So I say, you know, do you have any suggestions? And he suggests this concrete place up the road a bit. So I say thanks, and I don't mention that I had already been to the concrete place. But I say thank you, and Helen and I get back into the car. So this all happened on a Monday, and I'm thinking to myself, well, when's the next day that I can go out and take care of this fire brick situation? And be the next Thursday. So now comes the next Thursday, and I had known of this place a couple towns over that sold tile, you know, like tile floors or tile for a walkway or whatever. And I'm thinking, well, this place would probably be able to cut it to size. So Thursday comes, I pick Helen up from school, we go to McDonald's, and then we go to this tile place. So we get to the tile place, and just like the concrete place, this big, burly, tough-looking guy behind the counter. I have the brick with me, and I say, hey, I have this brick, this fire brick that broke it in half, but I'm having trouble finding someone to cut it. Do you have any tools to cut it? Because I'm thinking they're going to be working with tile all day. They must have a tool to cut this thing. No, no tools. So I'm just thinking, okay, this brick situation has becoming a real pain in my ass. By this point, I'm getting really frustrated. I thought this was going to be a lot easier. So we get back in the car, and we're driving home, and I think to myself, hey, I got this buddy, Tommy, that works with stone. Yeah, he could cut it. He's working with stone all day. I know he has tools. So I call him on my cell phone, and he's not there, so I leave a message and tell him my situation. Then we get home, and I check my messages, and I get a message from Tommy that, yeah, he'd be willing to help. He has the tools and can cut it. The only problem is he's in Colorado. Okay, so Tommy's not going to be able to help. About a half an hour later, my parents show up at the house, and me and my father get to talking about this fire brick situation. And my father mentions this guy that he knows that probably has all the tools to cut this thing. The only problem is he hasn't seen the guy in 2 years. All right, whatever. Maybe the guy will be around or whatever. So I give my father the brick for him to take it to get this thing cut. Now I should also mention that not only was there a foot of snow on the ground, but it was also the coldest week of the winter. So because the stove wasn't properly insulated, I didn't really feel safe enough to have a big fire like I usually do. So needless to say, we weren't as warm as we would have been. Okay, so the weekend comes, we do whatever. Now it's the following Monday, which was a holiday, but I'd forgotten it was a holiday. The reason I mention that is because I called my father that day to see if he had gotten the fire brick cut, and I talked to my mother, and she says, oh no, today's a holiday. Oh, right. So they're not going anywhere because they figure in the store that my father's friend used to work at, or still does, would be closed. Okay, so this is now a week after finding the brick broken the previous Monday. So the next day, Tuesday comes, and I'm driving home from school, and I call my parents to see how the fire brick cutting situation went. And I talked to my mother again. She said they haven't gone yet. It was like around 11:30 in the morning, but they were going to go that afternoon. So I get home and just do whatever. And about 3 hours later, my mother and father come to the house. And sure enough, they have the fire brick cut. The interesting part about that, the interesting part of the story, that part, was that the store that my father's buddy used to work at, he doesn't work there anymore, and they haven't seen him for some time. So he thinks of this other store, this hardware store, that he can probably go and get it cut, and he goes there, and they have a big tool, strangely enough, to cut tile, and they were able to cut the fire brick in that tool, but when they cut it, it covered the entire back corner of the hardware store with this red dust. It was just typical of the whole situation. This fire brick was not going to be easily cut. It was going to leave this situation with quite the bang. So he tells me the story of getting it cut. I take the brick, I go and fit it into the wood stove, and I had made the mark on the fire on the brick so close to spec that I just barely get it to fit into the wood stove. It must have taken about 10 minutes. Thinking to myself, this is not going to work. This is such a pain in the ass. But eventually it worked, and that night I built quite the roaring fire.